I know even just from a technology standpoint, right? When we looked at how people were using predictive dialers, power dialers, and various forms of manual dialing, and I'll put manual in air quotes, just whatever version of a manual dial you thought a manual dial was. And over time, the concept of what technology was needed to make a compliant manual dial or to be able to meet certain time zone bounding or frequency of dial bounding, or even just certain state level specific things where certain states have very restrictive rules differently than the federal level, where technology companies had to come in and create a lot of the things that didn't exist, or at least in a way from either a capacity question or otherwise, so that companies could eventually adopt these technologies. Now, obviously, that's an additional cost. That was another disruption to their operations because maybe they had to split their work groups into different work groups. Maybe they had efficiency changes where their productivity went down. So they had to figure out ways how to still have a viable business model. But even from just a technology perspective going forward, I can still see how every state that decides to add that next little unique thing to their state that's different than the federal side, every company not only has to keep up to date with what those changes are, but whether or not their technology provider can actually meet those standards, right? It can decide when and if to call someone on this in particular number, on this in particular day, and this in particular way, versus other industries may not be as heavily regulated, right? You look at Reg F, you look at collections, there's a much different approach to what you need to do there than maybe what another regulation in lead gen is versus what may apply for, let's say, TCPA at a state level versus federal. So I think the other piece of it that's important when we look at operations, people, process, that technology piece, I think is going to be really important going forward. Because without that, I think a lot of the things that you may want to comply with, like you said earlier, you could do all the right stuff, but there's still these gaps. There's still these things that you're going to get the ahas and the gotchas. And maybe because you are a good actor, it's easier to find you, it's easier to sue you, it's easier to collect from you than the bad actors that disappear overnight.